Don't know how close I got to telling that jumped-up little nobody what I really thought. Again.
In September 2023, Barbara Knox turned 90 years old. And just before her birthday, she signed a new contract to stay on Coronation Street well into 2024. 59 years she'd been playing Rita. First as Rita Littlewood in 1964 for one episode, then as Rita Bates in 1972 when she became a regular. And now at 90, she was signing on for another year.
I'm tired of it already. So, I'd like to propose a toast.
Most people would have retired decades ago, but not Barbara. An insider told The Sun, Barbara is in Corey's DNA. She is a true pro, and the executives were delighted that she put pen to paper to ensure she's on screens into next year. But here's what shocked everyone. Despite her reputation, Barbara is said to still worry about whether or not showrunners will renew her contract year after year. Co-star Sally Ann Matthews said of the legend, "Every year, she thinks she's not going to get another contract. I'm like, seriously, Barbara? If she ever forgets a line, which is very rare, she won't sleep that night. She's terrible. I tell her off all the time."
Things were bad enough as they were. Why would I want to spend any more time with you?
What happened to the bread roll?
After nearly 60 years on the show, Barbara Knox still worries they won't want her back. Still loses sleep if she forgets a line. Still thinks, at 90 years old, that this might be the year they let her go. And that reveals everything about why Barbara Knox has never left Coronation Street. It's not just a normal job, but rather who she is. Barbara Broth Wood was born on September 30th, 1933, in Oldham, Lancashire. She was an only child. Her mother, Emma, worked in a mill. Her father, Tom, was a moulder at Platt's Foundry, and later a fireman. Working class with a normal income. No connections and definitely nothing glamorous about it.
It's time to grow up, Tina. Life's not black and white, and the sooner you realize that, the better.
Barbara left school at 15 and worked as a telegraphist in the post office, learning shorthand and typing. She had to pass civil service exams. She also worked in offices, shops, and a factory. She worked long hours with low pay, but Barbara had a passion. That passion was amateur theater. On stage, Barbara wasn't the girl from the post office anymore. She wasn't just another working-class kid from Oldham with no prospects. She was someone else entirely, someone important, someone people watched. The applause, even in those tiny amateur productions, gave her something she'd never felt before. Recognition, worth.
Them sweets you're shoving down your jumper.
I'm not.
Don't be ridiculous, I'm standing here watching you. Put them back now.
Those nights performing in drafty church halls and community centers, that's when Barbara felt most alive. Her colleagues at the post office thought she was mad, spending her evenings rehearsing instead of going to the pub or settling down properly. But Barbara didn't care. She'd found something that made her feel like she mattered. And once you've tasted that feeling, once you've stood in front of an audience and made them laugh or cry or gasp, you can never quite let it go. That's the hook that would keep Barbara performing for the next 60-plus years. She'd act in local productions in Oldham, small roles that she ended up falling in love with. In 1962, Carl Paulson, who ran Oldham Rep, asked her to appear in The Boyfriend. It was her professional stage debut. Barbara was 29 years old. Most actresses would have started much younger, but Barbara was just beginning. She took the stage name Barbara Mullaney, using her married surname. Throughout the 1960s and early 1970s, Barbara appeared in various television shows. Emergency Ward, Teen. Never Mind the Quality, Feel the Width, George and the Dragon, A Family at War, small roles. Guest appearances. In 1969, she had an uncredited role as a dancer in the film Goodbye, Mr. Chips. In 1972, she appeared opposite comedian Ken Dodd in his sketch show Funny You Should Say That. On December 2, 1964, Barbara appeared in Coronation Street for the first time. just one single episode. She played Rita Littlewood, a friend of Dennis Tanner. At the time, it might have felt as nothing special, just another minor character passing through Weatherfield. But 8 years later, in January 1972, the producers brought her back, this time as a regular. Rita Bates, the common-law wife of Harry Bates, a nightclub singer, brassy, confident, a woman who'd been around. Barbara was 38 years old, and Rita would define the rest of her life. In the early years, Rita was a supporting character. She worked at the cabin agents. She had a few storylines, but in 1977, everything changed. Rita married Len Fairclough, played by Peter Adamson. Len owned a building company. He was rough around the edges, working class, honest, and he loved Rita. Their marriage wasn't perfect. They bickered. They had problems. But they loved each other. For 6 years, Len and Rita were one of Coronation Street's central couples. What made their relationship work on screen was the reality Barbara brought to it. Rita wasn't written as a saint. She could be sharp-tongued. She had a past. She'd made mistakes. And Barbara played all of that with honesty. She never tried to make Rita more likable than she was. She just made her real. Behind the scenes, Barbara was learning what it meant to be a regular on a soap opera. 6 days a week filming, learning up to 40 pages of dialogue at a time. No room for error. No time to be unprepared. The other cast members noticed Barbara's work ethic immediately. She was always first to arrive, last to leave. She never complained, never caused problems. She just did the work. That professionalism, that dedication, it started back then in the 1970s. And it's the same professionalism that keeps Barbara showing up at 90 years old, still terrified of letting anyone down. Then, on December 7th, 1983, Len Fairclough died in a motorway crash. Peter Adamson had been sacked from the show following allegations in the tabloid press. The character had to be killed off quickly. Rita was devastated, widowed at 50. Barbara played Rita's grief with honesty and heart. The public fell in love with her all over again. Rita wasn't just a character anymore. She was a survivor. Over the years, Rita's storylines kept coming. In 1992, she married Ted Sullivan, but the marriage ended when Ted died in 1995. In 2012, Rita married her old flame Dennis Tanner, played by Philip Lowry. Dennis had been the character who'd introduced Rita to Weatherfield back in 1964. Now, 48 years later, they were getting married. It was a beautiful full-circle moment, but Dennis died in 2014. Rita was widowed for the 3rd time, 3 husbands, all dead. For some actresses, that might seem like lazy writing, the same tragedy repeated over and over. But Barbara found something different in each loss. Each grief was unique. When Len died, Rita was shocked, devastated, lost. When Ted died, Rita was sad but resigned, almost expecting it. When Dennis died, Rita was exhausted, tired of loving people and losing them, tired of starting over. And Barbara played each widowhood differently because she understood that grief isn't the same each time. It accumulates, it changes you. By the time Rita lost Dennis, she wasn't just grieving one husband. She was grieving all 3, all the years, all the love that had ended in loss. The writers could have retired Rita after Dennis died. Could have written her into the background as a quiet old woman running the cabin. But they didn't, because Barbara wouldn't let them. She kept pushing for more storylines, more challenges, more reasons for Rita to matter. Not because Barbara was greedy for screen time, but because she was terrified that the moment Rita stopped being relevant, the moment she became just another background character, that would be the beginning of the end. And Barbara wasn't ready for the end. By then, Barbara was 80 years old. Most actresses her age had long since retired, but Barbara kept going. Rita became the matriarch of Coronation Street, the voice of wisdom, the shoulder to cry on. She ran the cabin. She took in lodgers. She mentored younger characters. She became a constant in a show that was always changing, and the public loved her for it. In 1989, Barbara won the TV Times Award for Best Actress for her portrayal of Rita during the Alan Bradley storyline. Alan, Rita's abusive boyfriend, had terrorized her for months. The storyline was dark, difficult. Barbara played it with depth and nuance. The public was gripped. When Alan was killed by a Blackpool tram, 12 million people watched. In 2004, Barbara received the Lifetime Achievement Award at the British Soap Awards. In 2006, she won Best On-Screen Partnership with Malcolm Hebden, who played Norris Cole. In 2010, she was awarded an MBE for services to drama. Off-screen, Barbara was nothing like Rita. Knox, like her friend and co-star Eileen Derbyshire, who played Emily Bishop, shuns publicity and is a very private person. She rarely gives interviews in public, although she has been known to give a few interviews for Coronation Street documentaries and has appeared alongside her fellow Coronation Street co-stars at some of the television award shows. Barbara married Dennis Mullaney in July 1956 in Oldham, Lancashire. The couple had 3 children, Maxine, John, and Amanda. They divorced in 1977. The divorce happened just as Barbara's career on Coronation Street was taking off. Suddenly, she was a single mother in her 40s, raising 3 children alone while working 6 days a week filming a soap opera. It wasn't easy, but Barbara kept going. She had to. In 1977, the same year as her divorce, she married John Knox. The couple divorced in 1994. After that, Barbara remained single. Her focus was her children, her grandchildren, and Coronation Street. For years, Barbara hid her real age. She'd tell people she was 5 years younger than she actually was. In the entertainment industry, being older meant fewer opportunities, especially for women. But in 1993, when Barbara turned 60, the Sun newspaper presented her with a surprise birthday cake. Barbara was finally forced to concede her true age, having previously pretended to be some 5 years younger. It was embarrassing, but Barbara handled it with grace. Here's what most people don't understand about Barbara Knox. Despite nearly 60 years on Coronation Street, despite being one of the most beloved characters in British television history, Barbara is deeply insecure about her work. Every year, she thinks she's not going to get another contract. Sally Ann Matthews, who plays Jenny Connor, said, "I'm like, seriously, Barbara. If she ever forgets a line, which is very rare, she won't sleep that night. She's terrible. I tell her off all the time. Not many people can." Think about that. At 90 years old, after playing Rita for over 50 years, Barbara still worries that one forgotten line will cost her the job. She still thinks the producers might not renew her contract. She still, despite everything, feels like she has to prove herself. That insecurity is what's kept her going. That fear of losing Coronation Street has made her one of the most dedicated, professional actresses the show has ever had. When Barbara turned 90 in September 2023, she signed a new contract to stay on Coronation Street well into 2024. An insider said, "Corrie is a lovely, steady place to work with a supportive team, so it makes it easy to fit around family, having kids, and as the cast have grown older." It was a no-brainer for Barbara to sign on the dotted line when the regular renewal of contracts came around this year. But for Barbara, it wasn't a no-brainer. It never is. Every year, she waits nervously to see if they'll ask her back. Every year, she's surprised when they do. And every year, she signs on for another 12 months because Coronation Street is her life and her identity. In a 90th birthday special in 2023, Barbara confessed to former co-star Bradley Walsh that she couldn't believe how fast the years had passed. She pointed out just how much she and the program had been able to cram in over the decades. Reflecting on her career, she expressed tremendous gratitude and felt lucky to have spent almost all her working life in the same place. However, she also made her feelings clear. Retirement was not on her horizon. That's the truth about why Barbara Knox signed another contract at 90. It's not about the money. Barbara is thought to earn around $200,000 from the show as one of its most iconic names. It's not about fame. Barbara shuns publicity and rarely gives interviews. It's about purpose, routine, identity. For nearly 60 years, Barbara has woken up, learned her lines, driven to the studio, and played Rita. That's who she is. That's what she does. And the thought of stopping terrifies her more than the thought of continuing. There's something else too, something Barbara rarely talks about, but that explains everything. For most of her life, Barbara was invisible. Nobody special, nobody important. She didn't get her big break until she was 38 years old. By then, most actresses have either made it or given up. But Barbara kept going, and when she finally got her chance, when she finally became Rita full-time in 1972, something inside her knew this might be her only shot, her only chance to be someone, to matter. That's why she can't let go. Because Coronation Street didn't just give Barbara a job. It gave her an identity. It gave her purpose. It gave her a reason to exist beyond just being someone's mother, someone's ex-wife, someone's employee. On Coronation Street, Barbara Knox became important. She became beloved. She became necessary. And the thought of losing that, of going back to being invisible again, that's what keeps her signing those contracts year after year. Some people might call it sad. A 90-year-old woman too afraid to retire because she doesn't know who she is without her job. But maybe it's not sad at all. Maybe it's the most human thing in the world. We all want to matter. We all want to know that our presence makes a difference. For Barbara Knox, Coronation Street is proof that she matters. And at 90 years old, she's not ready to stop mattering just yet. When Eileen Derbyshire, who played Emily Bishop, left Coronation Street in 2016, Barbara became the second longest-serving cast member behind William Roach. One by one, the actors from Barbara's generation had retired or died. Pat Phoenix, Anne Kirkbride, Liz Dawn, Bill Tarmy, Jean Alexander, all gone. Barbara and Bill Roach were the last ones standing, the sole survivors from the show's golden age, and Barbara wasn't ready to leave them all behind. There's another reason Barbara keeps signing contracts. The insecurity, the fear that if she leaves, people will forget her. Forget Rita. Forget the nearly 60 years she gave to Coronation Street. Barbara needs to know she's still wanted, still valued, still good enough. And every year, when the producers offer her a new contract, it's proof that she is. Barbara Knox has appeared in 3,825 of Coronation Street's 10,700 episodes. That's over half a century of storylines, of marriages, of heartbreak, of joy. Rita Tanner has become one of the most iconic characters in British television history. A survivor. Woman who's been through 3 marriages, countless tragedies and endless drama, but who's always come out the other side with dignity and grace. Barbara Knox's decision to sign another contract at 90 wasn't about proving anything to anyone else. It was about proving something to herself, that she's still capable, still professional, still worthy of being part of Coronation Street. And that's the real truth. Barbara Knox hasn't stayed on Coronation Street for nearly 60 years because she had to. She stayed because she needs to. Because without Rita, without Coronation Street, who is Barbara Knox? That question terrifies her. So she keeps signing, keeps learning lines, keeps showing up. At 90 years old, Barbara Knox is still fighting to prove she belongs. And maybe that's what's kept Rita Tanner alive for so long. Barbara's fear of losing her is stronger than any exhaustion or desire to retire. So what do you think? Is Barbara's dedication to Coronation Street at 90 admirable, or should she consider retirement? Does her insecurity about her contract make her more relatable? Or is it sad? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed learning about Barbara Knox's incredible life and the truth about why she signed another contract at 90, hit that subscribe button. We'll be bringing you more untold stories from British television's golden age. Thanks for watching.